Hi, I'm Ryan, and I weigh over 600 pounds. I live in Michigan, near Detroit to be exact, with my wife Joy and my son Max, and our cat Kayla. I lost over 100 pounds, but then I found it again. So I started a new series called Ryan Gets Less Fat.
Oh yeah.
Hello friends and well-wishers, and welcome back to another episode of Ryan Gets Less Fat. It's your buddy Ryan, and today we're going to be talking all about anxiety, my history with it, what I'm doing now to combat it, and is it linked to obesity? Plus, you're going to want to stick around to the end of the episode and see how I did with my second Project Deblobulate challenge. Could I stay under 3,000 calories for a solid week? My history with anxiety goes back a long way. I remember being a pretty small kid, laying in bed, and I would just worry about everything. School, my parents' financial situation, some nebulous argument going on in our extended family. And I couldn't stop these thoughts, and I couldn't stop myself from worrying about them all the time. And as I grew older, I developed some tics. And if you watched last week's episode, you may have noticed one of them, which is one I haven't done in a long time and really disturbed me to see when I was editing that video. But a facial tic, and I'm not going to do it right now because I don't want to start doing it. But basically, it's a weird blink and kind of a thing I do with my mouth. And I did it a few times last week, and I tried to cover it up through editing. But there were a few times where I just had to leave it in because I only had one take of what I was saying and the rest of the video wouldn't make sense without it. Because it's embarrassing and it's something I'm very self-conscious about because I got made fun of for it in elementary school a lot. A few kids noticed that I was doing it, and this is about third or fourth grade, I think. And they just started ragging on me all the time. And I actually had to really focus and force myself to not do that in class because I didn't want to be made fun of. I mean, I was already made fun of for being fat and a nerd and a loser. I didn't need to add nervous tics on top of that. Another one that I added over the years is this weird thing I do with my neck, and I almost can't do it unless it's really happening. And I think it's because I get nervous on camera. And so I, for a long time, just considered myself a worrier. My mom was a worrywart, and I figured, well, I learned it from her to be a worrier, to worry about things. After my mom passed, and then especially after my dad passed, it went to an extreme level. And I think it's because my mom went into a coma, a sudden coma, and she did not wake up from it. And that was hard to deal with because I had lost a very scary, very unexpected loss suddenly staring me in the face. And I didn't handle it well at all. And I think that thought, that knowledge that anything you love, anything you cherish can be gone like that, it really affected me. And I think the way it manifested in me was to take my anxiety from an 8 out of 10 to a 10 or an 11 out of 10 to a point where I could no longer deal with it. I could no longer function. And there are a lot of reasons that my life has kind of gone off the rails of where I had hoped it would be. I think depression is a part. I think anxiety is a part. I think my weight's a part. And I think those all play a role in feeding on each other and making each other worse. And I know a lot of other people who I talk to who have these issues tell me the same thing. You get depressed about the state of your health, of your life, of the time that you've wasted being this big. And what do? You turn to food. I turn to calories because they are what make me feel good in the moment, knowing full well that they're going to make me feel worse in the long run. And they do every single time. And so I gain more weight, I become less mobile, and I get anxiety about that. When you're watching this, it's going to be Black Friday. For me, it's just before Thanksgiving. We're going to my sister-in-law's house one day. We're going to my sister's house the next day to celebrate. I have such high anxiety about just leaving my house. I'm worried about walking down the stairs and hurting myself and not being able to get around. I'm worried about getting in and out of our car, which is small, and is sort of a circus act for me to do. I have to really bend and squeeze and slip, and I'm thinking of just covering myself with butter this year to make it easier. Just pop right in there. And then when you're at someone's house, you worry, is there going to be somewhere for you to sit? Are you going to break something? I am a really big person, and I often feel like a bull in a china shop, especially if I'm at someone's house and they have nicer things than we do, because it's a combination of I'm gigantic. I could easily break something, a piece of furniture, a part of their house without intending to. And because I don't work and I'm broke, I have no money to pay for it. And so I would feel really, really doubly bad about it. Most likely nothing's going to happen. Everything's going to be fine. We make accommodations for me to sit and where I can sit and everything. It's going to be okay. But I can't turn off that voice in my head. That voice in my head is just constant, and it affects everything. I have a huge amount of insomnia because when I go to bed and I lay down, that voice will not stop. I try to think of other things. I try to think of nothing. I try to have white noise on, and nothing will help. Nothing will work. I usually have to just get myself to a point of exhaustion where I'm so tired that I'm able to fall asleep. Just physically, it's going to happen because that voice in my head will not stop. And so what am I doing to try to combat these things? What am I doing to try to fight back? Well, I have tried therapy a few times with a few different therapists to mixed results. But I also spoke to my doctor about it, and I started taking antidepressants. And I've been on those for a few years, and I came off for a while. The depression was a lot better. I think I had come to terms with it somewhat, but the anxiety was still there. So I talked to my doctor again. Earlier this year, I went back on a medication for anxiety. And we have been fine-tuning the amount, the dosage for it, because some of them are weight-based, and so it can be difficult with someone so big to determine, how much you need. But recently, I have felt a lot more in control of my anxiety, and now it's still there. I still, every single day, I have to struggle to turn that voice off to try to get sleep. I have to really focus myself to get things done. I have to be careful not to let my anger and stress with my own head come out and affect other people, snapping it at my son or my wife, or being overly annoyed by things, because it's not their fault. It's all in my own head. I'm not perfect. And, sometimes I do lose my temper. I yell, and it's not right. It's not the best way to handle things. And I'm working on it. And, I talk to my son, I talk to my wife, and I try to just openly, honestly explain to them where my head's at, where I'm coming from. And when I am in the wrong, to apologize and to say, I'm sorry. That was because I was frustrated with myself, not you guys. Mental illness is extremely hard to deal with, both in the way that it affects your brain and the way it affects other people's perceptions of you. If I look at a person and they have a cast on their leg and they're hobbling around on crutches, I can think they're hurt. Maybe they need help. They need to get better. But when someone, can't get out of bed or can't slow down their thoughts to think, a lot of times, even I will think, oh, they just need to get over it. They need to toughen up. They need to get better. And I blame that partly on how I was raised. And this is nothing against my family, but mental illness was always talked about in my family as this really negative thing of, oh, the person's crazy. They need to go in the loony bin. They're going to be in a padded room if they don't straighten up. It was never presented as, this is a sick person who needs help. They need therapy. They need medication. They need to talk to professionals to try and get better. And so as someone who suffers from mental illness, I have to fight against those prejudices in my own mind. And so I understand how it has to be hard for someone who, and listen, everyone gets depressed sometimes. Everyone deals with anxiety sometimes. But we know that there's a difference between those emotions and a clinical problem that you need ongoing help for. But I understand how someone could say, how could you just lay in bed and not do anything? How can you just continue to eat and not help yourself? How can you say you're too anxious to work or to deal with life? I get those criticisms. And the truth is, for a long time, I wasn't doing anything to try to improve. I was just content to let myself go. And after the failure of my last weight loss attempt, I was kind of devastated with myself, and I just hated myself for it. And I beat myself up a lot, and I just stopped trying to improve. And that sucks. And I am ashamed of myself for letting so much time go by without trying to make any improvements. But I can tell you that even in the few weeks I've been doing this, I have felt so much better about myself, about my life, and about my future. In the pits of my depression and my anxiety and my overeating, when times were the worst, I would often think about not being here anymore. And it was sometimes a comforting thought because I was so miserable with myself that it was easier to think, oh, maybe everyone would just be happier if I wasn't here. And it's weird now that through this medication, through trying to take steps to make myself feel better, even a little bit, those thoughts have gone away. And I'm looking toward my future in a much more positive way and thinking that maybe I can get myself to a manageable weight. Maybe I can get myself to a place where my anxiety is lessened, because as I lose weight, I know it's going to help with my anxiety because so much of my anxiety is tied into my weight. And there are a ton of studies out there showing us that anxiety and weight and depression are all intermingled and mixed up with each other. And again, as I said earlier, I'm no scientist. I'm not going to act like I sat here and read a bunch of academic papers about it, but I went through some articles and I looked at some things, and I saw that there does seem to be some sort of link. And it's my hope that by being open and honest with you guys and myself about what I'm going through, what I'm thinking, where my head's at, and the things I'm trying to do to combat my anxiety, like the medication I'm on, that I can help destigmatize that in some people's minds, because there's nothing wrong with getting help when you need help. I needed help, and I've needed help for a long time, and I needed to help myself too. And I feel like I'm finally in a place where I can do that because I went to my doctor and I talked to her, and I was able to get on a new medication and a new dose that finally has me seeing my own self-worth again after another long period of not seeing it. There are a ton of things in the head of a person with mental illness that will try to stop you from getting the help you need and making improvements. And you have to be proactive in knocking those doors down and saying, I'm going to get better. I'm going to improve myself. I'm not going to give in to this. And don't be like me. Don't let such a long span of time go by where you put it to the side and think, I'll be okay, everything's fine, because it's not. But I can tell you, even in the small amount of time that I have tried to turn things around for myself, I feel so inspired and so much better and so creative and so looking forward to sharing these videos with you guys. And folks, before we go any further, we got to go to our latest sponsor. Is this right? Okay. Ryan, who ate so much at Thanksgiving that he's incoherent. Just roll it. Let me show you. All right. Little. And? I don't remember filming that. Last week, I asked you to share your experiences with anxiety, and 3 of you came through. Jenny, my sister, Mary, my sister-in-law, and Patty, a dear friend of my mother's. And because it's the holidays, ladies, I'm not going to break you up 1, 2, 3. You all are first place in my heart. As for the rest of you who watched this video and didn't comment, the significantly less of you that watched this video than my first episode, apparently me trying Thanksgiving chips was not the ratings draw I thought it was going to be. Apparently, if you want to see a fat guy eat stuff on the internet, there's lots of places to do that. So the rest of you are in second place, except for Joel. Joel, you know what you did. And now we move on to Project Deblobulate, where every week I take on a new fitness challenge. For week 2, I had the 30 minutes of exercise, and I was going to start eating 3,000 calories a day, tracking everything I eat to stay under that goal. Did I do my exercise for the week? Once again, no, it's a big old X. Okay, excuses. I had a bad case of gout one day, so I didn't do my dance party. And I was feeling under the weather another day, so I didn't do anything on that day. I failed again. But when it came to eating under 3,000 calories a day, could I get it done? Yeah, boy, I did it. Yeah. Oh, thank you. No, don't applaud. It's too much. Stop. Just wrap it up. That's enough. Stop. No, not more. Stop it. Oh, thank you. That's right. I'm going to pop my calories for the week up on screen right now. Poppity, poppity, poppity poo. I was able to stay under 3,000 calories. I think I did a pretty good job, and 3,000 calories gives you a lot of wiggle room. You can eat quite a bit and still be losing weight. This is something I can stick with, and as I lose more and more weight, I'm going to continue lowering my calories and going down. But to start, it's working out pretty well. So what about this week? We're keeping the exercise, we're keeping the 3,000 calories, and we're adding on drinking more water. So next week, we'll have the big update. Did I do my exercise? Did I eat well outside of Thanksgiving and the day after? And did I drink well outside of Thanksgiving and the day after? Tune in to find out. But next week, I'm going to tackle a low-calorie dish that my family really enjoys and I personally love, turkey chili. If you want to see my recipe, how I do it, and how it comes out, tune in next week. We are our own worst enemy. We worry about what everyone else is going to think of us. We worry about those stigmas. We worry about, oh no, people are going to know I'm on medication. People are going to know I'm in therapy. People are going to know this is wrong with me or that's wrong with me. In the end, what other people think really doesn't matter. What matters is you and your life and how you want to spend it. I don't want to be a guy that's stuck in a chair watching my son live his whole life and grow up without me. My wife and son going off and doing things without me because I physically can't go and do those things with them. I don't want that life anymore. It's been hard. And what makes it harder is knowing that I did it to myself. I put myself in that chair. I've kept myself in that chair. And I don't want to be in that chair anymore. I want to get up and I want to go out and I want to live for as long as I can. Because as far as I know, this is the only one I get. And I want to make the most of it. And I hope you will join me in trying to do the same. I always say don't get emotional before doing these, which is stupid because it's an emotional topic and we're talking about emotions and there's nothing wrong with emotions. God, the way our brains are hardwired and the things that are just ingrained in us from a young age is wrong or inappropriate are just such shackles that we have to break. And I want to break mine, and I hope you're breaking yours too. So, thank you for thank you for watching. Thank you for joining me. And I hope you'll come back next week because you are